the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
AVWeek is produced and distributed through a partnership with AVNation and Rave Publications. For more information, go to ravepubs.com/AVNation. This is AVWeek, episode 34, recorded Sunday, March 25th, 2012. Picture on picture.
Ready.
AVWeek.
Performing. Scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AVWeek. It's time for AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. I am your host, Tim Albright. Thank you so much for joining us. This week we have Dawn Meade, the Marketing and Media Coordinator for Net AV. She's also a blogger and the AV Goddess. How are you, ma'am?
Very good, thank you.
Also with us is Matt D. Scott. He's the owner-operator of Omega Audio Video in London, Ontario, Canada. Welcome, sir.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing well. 2 hours to the west of me is Rich Fregosa from FregosaDesign.com. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Finally catching up on my sleep. Looking forward to it after our wonderful time together with all of our AV Week compatriots.
Oh, sleep is overrated.
Sleep when you're dead.
Yep,
exactly.
Sleep when you're dead. And last, but certainly not least, he is the Crestron Electronics DM trainer extraordinaire. His name is Kevin Iselli. And it's his birthday.
Oh, there you go. Thank you for pointing out I'm 1 year closer to death. I appreciate that.
You know what? We're all 1 year closer to death. And we're all 1 minute and 13 seconds closer to death after that intro. So.
And on top of it, think about it this way, is that as you're spiraling towards death, you're forced to spend it with us for the next hour.
Sorry.
Yeah, I got to go.
Actually, not to point out anything weird, but we're doing this on Sunday evening, which is out of the ordinary for all of us. And Kevin sent me back a note and said, yep, we can do it. I'll have bourbon in hand. I'm thinking, yep, this is how we should do this.
It's going to be a good show.
Bourbons and cigars and, just kind of chilling out on a Sunday evening. This week we're going to talk about InfoComm and some new pavilions that I personally think is cool, and I'm kind of looking forward to them now that InfoComm is about 2.5 months away. HD TV sales are on a decline, and also we're going to get an iPad review from both Mr. Fregosa and Mr. Omega Audio Video. But first, something that's kind of come down the pike the last couple of years, actually, is a legal row with Kaleidescape and the DVD CCA. If you don't know what Kaleidescape is a company that produces a video server, as it were, and allows you to take your DVDs and rip them in and then serve them up to you digitally. Crestron has an interface for them. Crestron has something that's similar that does the same thing, similar. And a couple other companies have similar products, but the Kaleidescape one is kind of what the DVD CCA went after. There was an injunction released this week, and Kaleidescape said their CEO, Michael Malcolm, released a letter to the dealers saying, don't worry about it, forget about it, it's not a big deal. Rich, we'll start with you because this is kind of in your wheelhouse there, dude. Is it a big deal? Should he have said forget about it?
Anecdotally speaking, I don't think it's a big deal. Again, it's the DVD Association taking a crack at Kaleidescape. It's at this point, it might as well have the Betamax Association try to sue them as well.
Wow.
Case in point, two of my dealers, I've sold 4 of them in the past 10 days because we don't care about DVD. It's the Blu-ray, the optical media, and the download streaming for high-performance systems that we're worried about at this point. And DVD, we're telling people, look, buy an Apple TV then if you want DVD instant content. It's a non-issue at this point. Will they take a hit if the injunction is taken down? Yeah, of course. But, Michael, one of the things to remember is that this is the DVD CCA winning their appeal. They were ruled against the first time. So this is the second time that they've been in court for the same thing. And so the chances of it probably going back a third time, pretty likely. You know, again, I'm not an attorney, but at least from what I understand about Kaleidescape's position on this, they are not going to take this lying down. And if they need to spend some more time in court, then that's what they'll do.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer either, then, so that's why I was kind of asking the question. You know, this guy may be a lawyer. I don't know. He's the CEO of a pretty good-sized company.
He's very well advised. And prior to Kaleidescape, he was the CEO of a huge tech company. So this is not somebody who just decided, hey, you know, let's put on a show and build a company. This is a seasoned CEO, and this is now a seasoned CEO who is not happy. You mix those together, and you know that's a pretty good combination. So could I be completely wrong? Yeah, I could be, but they've been going so far at this point. You know, I think that all parties are gonna wind up doing even more of their due diligence, and there'll probably be another appeal. And at the end of it, it'll probably be much ado about nothing because DVDs will be dead. I mean, that's the way I feel about it at this point in terms of residential. It's such a non-factor in terms of the optical format.
Yeah. Kevin, you guys have something like this, and I'm not asking you to give the crushed-on legal position. But do you think this should affect you guys, or is this just DVD CCA just kind of slapping Kaleidescape around?
I don't really think it affects us generally because we don't have the ability on our ADMS to actually rip DVD content to the drive. That's where this comes into play, is that Kaleidescape for Blu-ray, which I'm not bashing the Kaleidescape. I think their front end is amazing. For Blu-ray, you have to have a disc and a changer. If you want to rip a DVD or CD content, it can do that right through their unit, where the ADMS, though you can store content, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, the device itself doesn't rip to local content or local storage.
Speaking of which, the article, which comes from CE Pro Magazine, actually has a nice link that has 12 ways to rip DVDs. Not that I'm connoting that sort of thing.
Isn't that fun?
No. We were actually supposed to go talk to Julie Jacobson this week, and I was hoping to get her on because, good Lord, this gets her ire up. Dawn, is this like Rich says, you know, the Betamax version of 2012, where they're kicking and screaming, but it's just going to kind of happen anyway because we don't really care about DVDs?
Well, I mean, to a large extent, yes. This made news because the Kaleidescape lawsuit was probably either the biggest or the first. You know, it's early on in the process. But the reality is there's a lot of this going on. It's like trying to put the genie back in the bottle. People want their content streamed. They want their content stored on a hard drive. You know, DVDs and even Blu-rays are very quickly going. I mean, they're not there yet. There's a long road. You know, my mom, bless her heart, in her 70s, she's just starting to learn her DVD player, which of course, you know, it means it's going away. But it's one of those things, you know, nowadays the technology and people's mindset has changed so rapidly, and with all the Netflix live streaming and Amazon Prime, if you haven't know anything about Amazon Prime and Hulu and all of these things, people want their content delivered this way. Mm-hmm. And rather than spending all their time and energy suing Kaleidescape and trying to put an injunction against them, DVD CCA would be better off trying to figure out a way to profit from this new business model, or they will go away. And that's just the reality of it. You know, I doubt the Laserdisc CCA group is, doing really well right now. They're with the Betamax guys. You know, it just, you figure out a way to deal with the new paradigm, or you die off. You know what? And they're kicking and screaming, you know.
Rich said he still has a functional Laserdisc somewhere.
I do. A Runco LJR1. It was actually the world's best Laserdisc.
Which is why it's still running.
Well, actually, it just meant that they put the lead ingots in it instead of circuit boards. We used to sell it by the pound. This must be really good. It weighs a lot.
But there are people out there that still have working, functional reel-to-reel players. There are people out there that still have working, functional Betamax players. It doesn't mean that that anybody actually uses that for real anymore. Well, it's a museum piece kind of, but the point is it's just not where things are going. And if this organization would wise up, they'd try to figure out a way to make their money and stay in business in the new paradigm, in the new world, as opposed to kicking and screaming to try to put that genie back in the bottle. It isn't going to happen.
Yeah, Matt, one of your main avenues is house of worship and churches and stuff. This is something, and this is my opinion, my perception of those places. Most of them nowadays are downloads. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen an actual functional DVD player inside a lot of churches, at least in the Midwest here, because there are so many other sources that they can download stuff to, and it's a lot cheaper and it's a lot easier for them.
Yeah, it's something that I honestly do still see a lot of DVD players in and around, maybe not always in the main, facility or auditorium, but in a lot of the peripheral rooms, just because they have a lot of older content on it. The difference being that they're not doing much with it. It's your most basic systems of, hey, we're going to pull a disc out and plug it in to watch a movie or something, or, do whatever to teach kids or, whatever it is. But yeah, especially for the main auditoriums and the main presentation systems, they're, the majority of the software that's out now all comes with digital downloads of, your jump backs and all your video pieces. And a lot of the major manufacturers of those, bumpers and stuff like that, most of them don't even ship DVDs at all. It's strictly a base media side. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the big difference is, this story frustrates me in general, just because here in Canada, we deal with a lot of being told what we can and cannot do with any form of technology. And as we've discussed on many previous shows in the past, I have huge issues with the fact that some company says that, hey, I can watch this on my TV. If it's on cable, just fine. But God forbid I stream it somewhere. And that's a whole nother.
Speaking of that, though, I'm sorry.
To me, it's the same issue. It's that whole, hey, if I own this piece of whatever it is, whether it be an LP, whether it be an 8-track, which we actually installed a couple weeks ago for someone.
No.
Yeah, seriously, it was hilarious. It really didn't work, but the 1 out of 5 that we tried did kind of play. Dude, believe it or not, I still occasionally put in a VCR.
I have a new tagline for you: Omega Audio Video, where you can get your 8-track installed.
Yeah, buddy. But anyways, it's one of those things. No matter what we do with the content, when we own it, it's to me, it's the same as if I get a magazine, I can cut those things up and make a collage and frame it, and no one should be able to tell me I can't. So if I go buy a CD, buy a movie, whatever, if I want to rip it and use it however I want to use it, if I want to put it on my iPhone, if I want to put it, splice it up and make some stupid little video, I should be allowed to do that. And as much as I don't think that this story in this case really affects too many people, in the sense that, guys who have Kaleidescape systems as a rule are not as concerned with DVD as they are with Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have large libraries and they've liked the effectiveness of this, but in new systems down the road, it's will this still play my DVDs? Yeah. Okay. Then yeah, that's fine. But, and then you come back and say, well, how many DVDs have you watched? Well, we actually just went and bought a Blu-ray version of it because it looks better.
Yeah. That's true. All right. From our buddies over at Rave Publication, InfoComm adds 4 new special events to the June show. And what they are the different pavilions and the different areas that houses a number of different manufacturers. It's not, just one manufacturer getting showcased. But it's a place for you where you can go and see a bunch of different technologies that are similar. I'll just say similar. Last couple years, they've had a digital signage pavilion. Last year in Orlando, they had an HD camera pavilion where they had several cameras set up side by side. I think I counted up to 10 side by side, shooting the exact same thing with the manufacturers. What?
They needed more.
Well, yes, they needed more, but they had a lot, though. I mean, here's the thing, though, dude.
Needed way more.
It's an InfoComm show that had broadcast cameras. I mean, not like big Ikagamis, but still, some good ENG stuff. So this year, not going to comment on the previous shows.
Well, what they wound up doing is they took a big eraser, and where it said like on the floor plan, they took the eraser to EXP.
Don't do it.
We have one pavilion.
Rich, I was hoping to get through an entire show without mentioning the fact that Extron is bowed out for some godforsaken reason. 14 minutes in, and it's already... Sorry.
Podcast recorded high five over the air to my good friend Rich.
Sorry, Andrew. All right. The four... oh, jeez.
I'm ready. I'm allowed to say these things.
Oh, knock yourself out, yeah. The four areas
Just think of all the malamine people that are out of work now.
But if you need countertops,
okay,
I'm sure
you know what? Here's another one. Somebody tweeted, where are we going to get our tweakers this year? So that's another one.
Oh, that's true. That's it.
The four areas... I will get through this story. The four areas that InfoComm is introducing is the Commercial Systems and Sustainability Pavilion. Not to be simplistic, but that's the green area. That's the green pavilion, with it's, low voltage and stuff like that. Next gen
it's a bunch of equipment with a switch that says off.
Yes. Next gen commercial concepts building. Basically, they're taking the next gen home and they're putting it on steroids. So it's next gen commercial, according to InfoComm. Conferencing education stage. I like this a lot. And then the production zone, which is just for Matt D. Scott, who apparently
right it is.
Complained a lot about the number of HD cameras they had, and that is, side-by-side comparison on large screen displays. Also an editing bay, which I think is pretty cool. Again, I think that's really cool because you're taking an element of NAB, National Association of Broadcasters, and bringing it back to InfoComm, which it had been missing for a few years. Dawn, are you excited about any of these? Are these just kind of like, they had a large space to fill?
Yes, all of the above. I mean, it's good that they're finally, I've kind of enjoyed the pavilions the past couple of years because it does make it kind of easy to organize things. Like if you have no interest in a certain topic, just avoid that big, purple area or whatever color it happens to be and head to the other pavilion. Or if you definitely, have a vertical market that's all video teleconferencing, hit the VTC and telepresence pavilion, that sort of thing. And that's been very successful for them. So they can't really go wrong with adding this. When I first saw Production Zone, I was like, oh, geez, here we go. Because again, with crossing into NAB territory. But then thinking about it, my former, one of the former integrators I worked with, they also did a lot of production stuff. They actually installed a lot of production studios for universities and for corporate clients that did their own in-house production, and they wanted the good stuff. And now the company never did enough integrations in that world to warrant a trip to NAB, but to be able to have that at InfoComm, that's a good thing for those sorts of integrators. And I'm sure my former employer is not the only company that does that in the nation. So, I think that this is going to be a good move on their part. None of these particularly has me doing backflips that I must go to that pavilion, but I'm definitely going to check them all out.
I'm hurt.
So
Kevin's hurt. Why are you hurt?
Oh, that was me.
Oh, why are you hurt, Matt?
Oh, no, just because I love going to NAB, and it's been a couple years since I've been there, so anytime I see them doing more and more production, more the better. And the main reason I say this is because, as you already mentioned, I do a lot of house of worship stuff, and we do a lot of, edit bays and a lot of production and a lot of stuff like that. The other side being that, we're finding more and more companies, even into some of the smaller businesses, are doing more video stuff. That's becoming such a larger part of marketing in general that this is something that is creeping in to more and more things, because you get people producing things via, iPhones and, cameras in their computers, and then realizing, hey, we should, we want to step this up a little bit. So I just think this is a good way for people who, again, aren't going to make the jump to go to NAB to see something and see a little bit more what's out there. And at the same time, help the ones that are doing or trying to do production, but doing it poorly, get a better feel for what's actually there. I've, believe it or not, seen production studios that used security cameras as their cameras for broadcast, believe it or not. And you look at it and go, really? You go, yeah, these are the same. No, they're not. But thanks for trying.
Rich, all kidding aside for a second, are you excited about any of these pavilions?
As somebody who's, more, again, the commercial and the professional isn't really my sweet spot. So for me, I can just go to InfoComm and get exposed to a greater range of ancillary markets so that I don't have to go to NAB, I don't have to go to the government show. So for somebody like me who has more than a passing interest, but I don't have a fully vested interest, I think it's great because it allows me to make one trip, much like if a commercial person came to CEDIA. That's the way that I view it, is that it's one place where all of these subsets of the market are, that I can go ahead and at least take a look and ask a couple of questions or at least be exposed to it. So for me, I think it's, if I'm only going to one big party now, I've got to fill my time somehow.
Good night. Kevin,
although I'm waiting for the tweaker pavilion. So, we're just going to have 10 or 15 different tweakers in a shootout.
That's fregosadesign.com, fregosadesign.com.
All legal matters should be forwarded to.
Kevin, you're not going to see any of these anyway because you work for a manufacturer and
he's the guy making the pigs in blankets for
No, we get those from Costco.
Yeah.
Nice.
So they're already pre-made.
They're
just
pre-made.
Have to heat them up a little bit.
Yeah. They have an oven in the back of the thing.
Well, I don't know. I guess looking at the pavilions that they're talking about here, kind of interesting. I mean, you could say you want to see good examples of all of these, with the exception of maybe the broadcast side. Just go to C7508, the Crestron booth, and you'll see it there. Or even we could go back as far as last week when was it 2 weeks ago we did the Mr. Klein event
2 weeks ago.
AVWeek? 2 weeks ago. He said some pretty profound things. We got to remember that we're not in the AV industry; we're in the technology industry, and that maybe this is something kind of coming to fruition. What he said actually on AVWeek a few weeks ago. Take everything and integrate it. It's all technology, and maybe with some of these, the sustainability and such, maybe that's the next step that he was talking about.
Yeah, that and the next gen stuff is kind of cool. So I think it's cool. I like it. I like Dawn said, it gives you one place to go because let's face it, it's a big show. It's a big floor. It's not as big obviously as NAB and some other shows, but if you are interested in, let's say, digital signage or HD cameras, it gives you one place to kind of give them, side-by-side comparisons. So I thought it was cool.
Always been a fan of the pavilions. Like you said, it's a nice little, roundup of all of the people or the players in the markets of those specific technologies. So you don't have to, walk from one end of the hall to the next, just looking for that manufacturer you want to see.
Yeah, and go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and the extension of that for me has always been the ability to see a lot of the different products working together to form a solution properly.
Yes, yeah.
Which is always a good extension because I know Crestron can do almost everything that you'd ever need, but there are still sometimes additional parts that need to go into whatever type of system or building you're working on to make that work and function properly. And I always find that the pavilions are really, really good for that, kind of understanding.
It's also a good place if you're not familiar with a particular segment of the market. Like a few years ago, I wasn't really sure what the heck digital signage was or what it meant. And so the pavilion was very helpful, and I just kind of walked around it, and I want to say it was 2 or 3 years ago when they had the first one. And you just kind of, just talk to each manufacturer, what they did. And like Matt said, they had different solutions. One part of the pavilion was the display. And this company didn't make the display, but they made the digital server, the digital signage server that fed the display. So I thought it was kind of useful. So from NPD Display Search, HD TV sales have declined. Dun, dun, dun. Because y'all didn't buy enough 3D TVs.
What does that exactly mean?
What does that mean? What do you mean? What does it mean? I mean, they declined.
Does that mean that they overestimated their sales and now they declined?
Year-to-year growth was negative. It's a headline, Kevin.
Yes. Yeah, but it's what is it?
No,
Q4?
It's Q4.
Yeah, Q4 this year versus Q4 last year.
Yeah. Well, Q4 11 to Q4 10.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And here's the bigger story. What it really was.
What you're telling me honestly though is everybody's sets or everybody who bought flat screens a year ago or 2 years ago, those are actually still working?
Well, unfortunately, yes.
Oh, okay.
It's a good thing unless you're NPD Display Search or Panasonic or Pioneer or who else is left making flat screens? Samsung is making flat screens still.
Well, what they're going to do is they're going to just start calling all of the TVs coming up the new HD TV. So that way, we should get a new one. The new one? What do you mean?
New one.
New one.
Now, to be fair, guys, let's look at the article or the headline. Look beyond the headline here.
Please.
It's not just, if you look at the chart at the top of the headline, it's not just HD TV sales decline. It breaks down the quarter-to-quarter growth and the year-to-year growth in each different segment. And if you look at this, LCDs TVs, they grew 24% from third quarter to fourth quarter, and they grew 1% over the year-to-year. Now, plasmas, they grew 26, or PDP grew 26% quarter to quarter. They went down 8% year to year, but everybody's moving to LCDs. OLED went up 470% quarter to quarter, but it's down 73% year to year. Well, it's still a developing technology. But the big story, and it's not even really a story for those of us that have been around, CRT.
No.
25% down quarter to quarter, 43% down year to year. So it's not even really saying HD TV sales decline across the board, so all the big guys are screwed. It's saying that nobody wants this big bulky box sitting in their house anymore. They want something sleek and flat hanging on the wall.
I do.
The last category was rear projection TVs, which was 46% growth quarter to quarter, but year to year it was down 51%. Well, rear projection TVs are like those CRTs. They're big, bulky things people don't want anymore. So
the guys catering to the pizza stores are weeping the world over. That was my favorite thing going into, the Chuck E. Cheese, the big 40-inch, the rectangular TV that was 6 feet off the ground to begin with. So you can't even actually see it because it was never intended to be watched off axis. So you're seeing this dim image of, whatever it is while you're at Chuck E. Cheese as a kid going, this is awesome. Look at that size of that thing.
And now they have that thing a quarter of an inch off their wall in their living room. So, they don't need it.
Is there even, and this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but outside of maybe broadcast.
You're wrong.
Is there, Tim? Really?
That was Iselli.
It just happens. Just apologize up front, and we'll be done.
Exactly. No, but is there even a CRT that's actually HD outside of broadcast?
Yes. I don't know who makes it, but God bless her, my 70-something-year-old mother had one.
And it's HD, though.
It was an H. It was
that is sold this past 2 years.
It was sold like 2 or 3 years ago, and then it went away because my brothers got her a flat TV for Christmas.
Right, but what I mean is the fact that CRTs, to me, that one shouldn't even be in the HD TV, sales.
They actually made them, though, because the old woman had one.
I know, but what I'm saying is year over year, were they selling them in 2010? Because I
believe so.
I know we weren't. We didn't have a single model.
Weren't.
Yeah, most of us weren't, but they were out there though, Matt.
Most of us in the industry weren't, but they still had 70-year-old women buying them, so they had to include them.
Wood grain.
Wood grain was extra.
Yeah.
They sold them on QVC, so.
Okay, all right. I'll give you that one.
We make fun, but my mom's heart is still broken. She can't get a piece of furniture anymore with the TV built in. When she actually had to buy the credenza to put the TV on, she literally wept. It was not a good scene.
She could have just put the new TV on top of the old TV, like my folks did when I was a kid.
I have.
My brothers wouldn't let her.
Picture on picture.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. I actually have a cousin of my father's who has an old, I don't know, it's a 40, the big monster consoles that have, storage down both sides, speakers, the whole kit. The tube blew on her a year and a half ago, and she literally had the tube removed and had a flat screen put in the slot because she liked the credenza so much.
That's
Those are great. You can get little mini bars with them and everything.
Oh, yeah. Go to town.
For some reason, it makes me think of Christmas stories. Like you get the box on that TV. It's like fragile. It must be Italian.
Drink more Ovaltine. Oh man.
And I must say, since we are reading this lovely story off Rave, my condolences to the entire Rave Pub staff.
Well, explain
on
why,
the
Matt.
loss of North Carolina today.
Yeah, the UNC Tar Heels have
you're out.
Did not make it to the Final Four. So
I'm sorry, they're what, Canada?
Huh? Hey, we don't have basketball.
You know what,
we got to watch yours.
Matt is the worst Canadian I have ever met.
Aren't I? I'm terrible. I don't even say ready. You
do sometimes.
You get a boot every once in a while.
I do get a boot all the time.
You get a boot,
and I say process, not process. There's no A in there. It's
all right.
Process. Just like, actually, Kevin, do you guys call it a process or a process?
Process.
See? Right there. Even Kevin's with me.
Well,
Kevin's originally.
We'll only go so far.
He hasn't had that much bourbon yet.
It's a process, but we also use the letter Z.
Yes, you do. It's not Z, it's Z. Or it is Z.
It is
not
Z.
Z.
And then you can go and see that rock band, ZZ Top.
Wow. On that note.
All right, carry on.
You're listening to AV Week. Thank you for listening this far. Rich Fregosa is here from FregosaDesign.com. Mr. Iselli, who is from Crestron Electronics. Dawn Meade from NetAV and a blogger, etc. And Matt Scott from Omega Audio Video from London, Ontario, Canada, which apparently is just outside Dallas-Fort Worth. So, because Matt's also a big Cowboys fan.
Yes.
Just to make one last comment on that last episode.
Oh, sure. What the heck?
No. I was looking at that quarter-to-quarter growth on OLED. It's pretty fascinating. But what I'd like to see is let's keep our eyes on this. Next year. Now that LG and Samsung have been showing that 55-inch at CES, and I'm sure we'll see that at InfoComm as well. There's still not hard specs out there. There's still not a price. But, when something like that hits the market and you compare it to, let's say, the 60-inch rebirth of the Elite, from Sharp, or Sharp Pioneer, if you will, at the same price point, that'll be interesting. I'd like to see who wins that battle.
Now, see, I could have dreamt this. I thought LG had a price out there of like $8,000 for a 50 or 55 inch.
I mean, it's
was
all
rumor.
Here
Okay.
right now.
Yeah, I've not seen any published pricing or specs on it yet. Just other than what we saw at CES, which was the coming someday.
No, of course, and then
there
of
was
course
also even talk of it even being and I hate using the term, a 4K resolution.
Right.
Because you know where I stand on 4K.
I know. Kevin and I had a long conversation one week about 4K, so it was educational. I didn't mean that to sound as bad as it did. We had a conversation on the air about 4K and what all it meant, and then the next week I get a call from Iselli. Hey.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
Which 4K are you talking about?
Yeah, that was the problem, though. That was the issue, is which 4K. So, where we? Oh, the Microsoft thing. 3D, which I know we all know and love.
Love it so much.
Well, here's the thing. This comes from techflash.com. glassless 3D. Okay, you ready for it? Using a holoflector. Oh, come on. You guys are Star Trek fans. Star Trek. Holoflector. It's the next step before the holodeck.
They're just make crap up.
Help me, Obi-Wan. Yeah, actually, what they should have done is just had a running video. Help me, Obi-Wan. You're the only hope.
Actually, it's a weird picture of a guy. I'll put the link up on the show notes. It looks like a guy taking a picture covered in snow.
I thought he was wearing tinfoil.
I thought he was covered in tinfoil.
Tinfoil.
Is that what that is? Okay, it looks like it's snow to me. I don't know.
I was just waiting for him to have that triangle hat so that the dark energy won't enter into his brain.
Oh, that makes sense. They got Adam Curry to pose for the sorry, that was a really left field comment.
How good can this be? I mean, I'll quote one line in the article that literally stopped me in my tracks, where it says, "We have a tremendous amount of data coming in, but we need to understand it."
Well, it's okay,
right,
guys.
then.
Okay, so it's using a translucent mirror, Kinect, which I'm a huge fan of using Kinect to do stuff like this, and a Windows Phone, which is just kind of silly. But still, I mean, I thought it was cool. I mean, first of all, if they're gonna shove 3D down our throats, at least get rid of the glasses. And this was the 3D without the glasses.
I was kind of hoping you were going to say if they're going to shove 3D down our throats, make it 3D.
Well, I couldn't ask that. That would just be ridiculous.
That would be, yeah. I'll tell you what. We went through. We started a new national deployment of a road course or a road show, if you will. And we're doing some of this because we're getting a lot of questions of, do you support 3D? Do you support 3D? So, in the presentation, we kind of thought it'd be cute to show the forms of 3D we do support. 3 of those that we don't support, of course, are the Oakley 3D Vision glasses, Crest 3D White, and 3D Doritos are not supported. But I am a big fan of 3D.
But there's a firmware update for that.
Hang on, do they still sell 3D Doritos?
Yeah, they're as far as I know, they're gone.
Okay.
Yeah. Canada.
Those are delicious.
You can still get them in Canada. There you go.
No, we don't get. We never got them in Canada.
Did you ever get?
Oh no, you guys got to wait 10 years.
Did you ever get Crystal Pepsi in Canada?
I don't believe so, but I don't drink Pepsi, so.
Consider yourself lucky. It's fine.
Okay. Was that the clear Pepsi?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Weird.
No, I remember that. That was bad.
I thought it was like some form of like methamphetamine fueled Pepsi or something. Just like Crystal Pepsi with extra meth.
No, that was Crystal Meth Pepsi.
And that was only sold in the South.
Homebrewed. It was a microbrew. With more cough syrup.
We should never do this.
Did anybody else notice that in this article, and when the listeners take a look at the article at the very bottom, did anybody think that they actually might have hired Mark Zuckerberg at the bottom of it?
Sure looked like early Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
I kind of looked at it and went, "Wow!" I think that's the only reason I looked at it for a moment.
The hardest thing for me about reading this is I read it and then I'm like, hold on, did they make this website in a bedroom somewhere?
Oh, jeez.
I've seen 8-year-old
Crystal Pepsi.
No. They used Microsoft front page because it was,
did. Because I've seen 8-year-old girls make better websites than this. This is garbage.
But in that, quick plug for John Siaka, since he is still the world's evangelist of Microsoft Paint, maybe they contracted him
wow.
to do the editing on this.
You know what? It's awesome because I think Siaka could use Paint about as effectively as my 3-year-old niece does. It's kind of sad. Siaka, you hear me?
Wow. He doesn't listen to this.
I'm calling you out.
John doesn't know
Calling you
about
out.
this.
Look out.
Yes, I'm calling you out.
It's calling you out. Look out.
Well, that's going to be the next InfoComm booth, right? The Microsoft Paint shootout.
We'll use paintball guns.
There we go.
Nice.
Hey, you know what? We have a nice big open space to do it in. All right.
Jeez. You're never getting invited.
Actually, you could put a speedball field in there, yes.
Dawn Meade, who I refer to as the AV goddess, is also a blogger as well as being the media coordinator, marketing and media coordinator for Net AV. She's also a rave blogger, and from time to time, not from time to time, an awful lot, when Dawn writes something, I will immediately read it because most of the time she'll either educate me on something or get the little squirrels in my brain moving. And this latest blog post is no different. You went to the NSCA Business and Leadership Conference.
I did.
And I'm gonna kind of synopsize this, and you're gonna correct me if I'm wrong. But this is kind of like the basics of this is, you know what? Either educate your guys or hire out, one of the two. Is that develop the guys that you have to, evolve into what we've kind of become, back to what Randy Klein said, that we're a technology industry, we're not an AV industry. Develop your guys into that or hire out. Is that kind of the synopsis? Is that a correct synopsis?
Not really so much.
Okay.
The BLC, I mean,
that's
the whole
what I got
principle behind the whole principle behind the BLC is, and I'm sure all of you know this, in our industry, for the most part, nobody grows up saying I want to be an AV when I grow up, because most of us didn't know AV existed when we were little kids. And so most of us, we just sort of found we had an aptitude for technology, or we really liked playing with TVs or speakers or what have you, whatever led you to get into the AV industry. And then you found out you were good at it, and then you started a company. And there's not this whole, business school education, learning how to write a business plan, learning how to do, SWOT analyses and all of that sort of thing. So a lot of our smaller companies, especially, they're either hiring in people from the outside that aren't at all AV people to run the business end, and that just can be disastrous, or they're going back to school, they're trying to learn the businessy end of it and keep their business running at the same time. And so what NSCA did, I guess 14 years ago, this was the 14th annual, I believe, they put together this business and leadership conference for business owners, for CEOs, CFOs, presidents, other management types in our industry that already know the technology, they know the unique challenges of the AV and systems integration industries, but they need that business background. They need that extra nugget. They need that impetus to change, to evolve, to compete on a level with other companies or better than other companies to succeed. And so they put together these business conferences every year. This is the first year that I was able to attend. And, I'm in the last dying gasps of getting my own MBA from University of Maryland currently. I've been doing that. Thank you. And honestly, I learned as much from this 3-day conference in Dallas as I did in a couple of semesters worth of MBA coursework.
Ew.
I mean, it was that fantastic. Plus, it was people in our industry, so that the networking and the talking and the application of the theory applied to what I know, what I need, and it was just a wonderful opportunity to just hang out with some of these people that you might never meet in our industry, pick the brains of some of the experts they brought in. And I mean, the article that you had us looking at for this podcast is actually part 1 of 3. It was a 3-day conference, and I wrote 3 articles about it, 1 per day. I mean, it was that just intense, but fantastic, So I'm always a big cheerleader. You'll know from having me on the podcast and having read my blogs and articles, I'm a big cheerleader on education and continuing ed in our industry. I can't speak highly enough about this. If you have the chance, save your money and go to the BLC in the future. They also have scholarships. You can apply for a scholarship, and if you're a first-time attendee, you can attend for free, other than you're paying for your airfare. Oh, yeah. Because fortunately, that's what I did this year. Because until recently, I wasn't working. But I had one of their scholarships, and I got to go for free. And let me tell you, I already told Mr. AV Dawn, we're saving up because I'm going next year, wherever it is. It's just amazing.
Wow. That's cool. And so the rest of your 3, the number 2 and number 3, are going to be about days 2 and days 3?
Absolutely. And actually, the first article here, the one that you all have read now, actually just talks about the opening dinner and the awards ceremony that they gave out, the what is it, NSCA Excellence in Business Awards that they give out in different categories like philanthropic contributions, growth strategies. It's an award that NSCA has been giving out for, I guess, quite a while. separate from the BLC event, and they've sort of incorporated it into the BLC. But the following 2 articles, whenever they run in Rave, they actually talk about the meat of some of the courses, the keynote speakers, the financial implications, the things we learn. There was one class on being aware of overcoming adversity and being aware of your financial state in your business. And the teacher of that course, he is an AV integrator in, I believe, Tennessee, who had been embezzled from.
Wow.
He had a person working in his office that he trusted, and they embezzled just a stupid amount of tens of thousands of dollars before she was caught. Here it is, $257,000 from the company.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book about his experiences, and everyone that attended this year's BLC got a copy of his book. But he talked about, look, we're tech guys, we're AV guys, we're construction guys. We don't deal with all of this stuff. We trust people to do our books for us or to keep track of these things. And you need to be aware, and here's what you need to do as a business owner to prevent this from happening to you. And if it happens to you, here's what you have to do to get through it.
Yeah.
And and these people just speak from their own experiences on so many different topics at the BLC that it's just amazing to learn from.
Wow. That's very cool. From AV Technology Online, it's a blog post from a guy by the name of Christopher Mayone. He's talking about control systems, and I'm going to read a quote from the post and ask you guys kind of one of the questions from it. He says, "I'm not sure what the best approach is talking about control system design and really touch panel design, but the way AV designers and system integrators are going about it is not the answer. We need a different approach to AV system control, and it needs to be simple and easy to operate. And oh yeah, it needs to be intuitive. It shouldn't be so hard. Think about this. We've each used ATM machines all over the world. They have, for the most part, a clean, intuitive, and uniform look and feel. We need AV control systems to be the same. Now, the person who taught me AV control systems, and specifically Crestron control systems, I personally think is the best teacher in the whole wide world."
Oh, stop.
I wasn't going to say your name.
Whatever.
Not for nothing, but Kevin was actually my teacher for my essentials class for Crestron 100 years ago. And Kevin, and I don't actually remember if this was like your leaning or if it was a Crestron thing. I believe it was a Crestron thing. You guys use Dashboard. When you teach, and that's something that you guys kind of ascribe to. And if you don't know what Dashboard is, I'm referring to Dashboard for Controls, which is a document that InfoComm put out a number of years ago, detailing a simple, intuitive interface. So, Mr. Wonderful Teacher, we'll start with you, because you guys, you guys are, not for nothing, you're one of the biggest touch panel manufacturers, and this stuff affects you directly. So, is it do we need not another standard, because I know how much you abhor those, but how do we get it through to the contractors and the AV system designers that, hey, make this ATM simple?
Well, let me start off by saying there's a little bit of continuity that I felt was missing. To talk about it in the form of control is not exactly accurate, because from a standpoint of an interface, the control happens in the background. It's the processor that is talking to all the devices that does the control. But it's more of the GUI, or as stated, the graphical user interface, or the interface itself, which is the as we like to call it on our side, the digital to organic interface. And there's always problems with that. And that'll sink in a little later. But the idea of should there be consistency, should there be simplicity, yes. The problem with that is we have no control over that. That is, everyone who ever designs an interface, anyone who ever does graphics, is the maker of that magic. I'm a big fan of simplicity, right? If it takes you more than 3 key clicks to get to where you want to go, you missed it, right? Which is why, picking on the iPad just for a second, or any mobile device, if you will, a lot of those devices aren't always up front. So you have to jump through a lot of hoops to actually get to the controls that you're looking for, or to the interface that you're looking for. But to boil it down, simplicity is very key, because without simplicity, you'll just get frustration from the user. As a good rule of thumb, always hand it to someone who is not the designer to see if it makes sense to them, right? Like, hand it to your kid. If the kid can figure it out, that might not be a great example. Hand it to the 70-year-old lady, or give it to Dawn's mom or grandmother. And if she can figure it out, that means you've got a good interface there. It's just a matter of making things more enjoyable and more convenient. Now, as a sidestep to that, though, what we're also facing is more integration. So it's piling more features, more functions, more stuff into the same, let's say, glass or the same touch screen real estate. Mm-hmm. Guess what? It's going to get more confusing. Because even in this article, they talk about, teleconference or video conferencing. Gosh, guys, I defy you to do that. People do this all the time, or try to do this all the time. Do that on a 4-inch touchscreen. Mm-mm. Right? You're into 7 to 8 page flips, and it just gets into this, bad experience for the user. So I think we're kind of climbing a little bit uphill, where we could get into much more intuitive interfaces, much more simplistic interfaces, but then that would just, tax the back end if it were, as far as the control systems communications. Now, if, to coin a phrase, now we're into more macro operations as opposed to do it exactly as you want to do it as you're going along, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Rich, you're one of the magic makers.
Wow. I might catch some heat for this. I completely disagree with the impetus behind this article. I think this article points out a lot of the obvious, but it doesn't really give any answers in terms of saying, the ATM analogy. It made the necks on my hair bristle a little bit, because an ATM does one thing. You go in, you get money. Yeah,
exactly.
It's intuitive, because it does one thing.
Well, yeah.
Okay? It does one thing.
Well, hold on, Rich. Rich, you have to remember, habla español la prima dos.
Yes.
Right, so you're right. There is very limited functions there.
It is a defined scope.
Correct.
Right? So at that point, you have a defined endpoint that you're reaching, and you are doing it in one. Potentially the only thing down the decision tree is changing the idiom, changing the way that you visually access it. But this has always been my issue with the design process and technical people trying to define the user experience. Mm-hmm. It makes me grit my teeth. And again, I'm coming from residential, so I am dealing with people in their home, not their business, not the place they show up where a committee maybe rules on a panel, or you've got different operators. This is what they live with day in and day out. And the thing that we've always tried to push with people is that automation and touch panels are not about technology. They are simply there to assist you because you are a creature of habit. For the most part, and we use the term overlay control systems because that's really all it is. It's an interpreter. It is your conduit from the digital to organic experience. And I agree with Kevin in this, absolutely. You can't control that side. You have personalities, and they are each going to relate to how they get from point A to point B differently. It's just how they're going to process it. But the end result is that even in a home, and I'm going to extend it out to a commercial environment, I've always felt that there are only 8 things that you ever need to really worry about first. You want it on, you want it off. You want it brighter, you want it dimmer. You want it warmer, you want it cooler. And you want it louder, and you want it softer. And so many people deviate from that on all of the other functions before they even get to that part. And the way that we've looked at it is that, if you come into a space and you perform the same action mechanically 9 out of 10 times, whether it's video conferencing, turning on the lights, a screen, a projector, whatever that is, the purpose of this system is to take those steps and condense them so that you do press video conference, or in a residential application, I'm home. because people generally are creatures of habit. So to take this and to say, well, there's all of these different ways of being able to do it, and we keep gumming up the works, and we had it much simpler before. Well, yeah, you did, because like Kevin was saying, we got more stuff now. There's just more things, and they each have their own unique ways of interfacing with it. So we're always the guys that are stuck in the middle, saying, how do I break this down? And I don't even use the word simple, because simple isn't what we're looking for. We're looking for elegant. Elegant,
exactly.
Right? That's the key. That's the adjective that we use, is that simple. You want simple? Don't have a control system. Have a light switch. That's simple.
Yeah. Have a relay.
Yeah, have a relay. I mean, and that's the whole thing. Elegance is treating a touch panel that somebody walks up to that is ubiquitous as a light switch. They can look at it and say, I pretty much get what the function of this thing is. How you get there, that's style. That is the magic. And that is what separates some companies from others, why some companies are better at it than others. I had the luxury and the good fortune of working with Mr. York in the early AMX days, middle of the AMX days. And he's a brilliant guy. It's why he and Scott Miller got together, because they caught on to it. I mean, York Controls was started basically so that they could automate, slide projectors. That was one of its first devices. It was to be able to just move slides forward.
Yeah. No, and Rich is right. And I think the only comment that I had towards the article is that he quoted Dashboard for Controls, which was InfoComm, and there was AMX and Crestron, and even some education facilities were on that, let's say, board of people that put that document together. Just real quickly, that the concept of that document wasn't to define what the user interface was. It was just to help, let's say, define more of a guideline of layout. The concept of using the actual dashboard of a car. You can get into any car at any time, and you could figure out where the controls are because it's always somewhat familiar. What they had was this just rampant of people putting what they wanted, where they wanted, how they wanted. And this actually, again, came from the university market, where they had problems where integrators were causing, and not intentionally, they were causing confusion from the user when going from classroom to classroom and having to relearn the interface. So the idea behind Dashboard was to say, hey, your power is always in the upper right hand corner. Your volume's always in the lower left hand. It was kind of like this look and feel that no matter if the graphical interface changed, or they used pictures, or they used buttons, whatever, you always kind of had the same localization of control of the function you were looking for. That's where Dashboard came from.
I agree with Kevin. I would even go so much farther as to say is that what Dashboard defined is that it's a car, as opposed to saying it's not a plane. You
don't have 15,000 buttons to land the plane.
Yeah, exactly. You have a steering wheel. A car has a steering wheel, not a yoke, not a rudder. That's kind of the basics of Dashboard, and I agree with Kevin. That was the premise behind it, was to say, look, here is a guideline for people who aren't versed in the user experience, people who aren't spending the time on the psychology of touch, for lack of a better word, on how to interact with the digital or organic interface, to be able to say, look, you've got a technician, you've got a system, you've got 50 classrooms that you have to deploy. If you're going to unify this and you want to make it as simple as possible and not hire a graphic designer and user interface specialist and everything else, here's a basic roadmap and some rules of thumbs that we have found to be successful. The end. Then take it from there.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
Don, let's talk about commercial for a second, because Rich said the phrase elegant. Do corporate people care about elegant, or do they care about functional? We've lost Don.
Well, while we gain Dawn back, I would say, Tim, the corporate does actually care about elegant.
I left her speechless. She's still making a voodoo doll of me and poking pins in it now.
You know what? Fregosa said elegant, and she went out.
I'm here. I muted the mic. I had a dog on my lap.
That's
I apologize. Right. Yes, corporate wants both elegant and functional. The problem is, if I can go back to an analogy one of you guys just used, the difference between a car and a plane. The problem is, in the commercial world, we need to use the same machine to both drive and fly. And what I mean by that is we're dealing with two different customers when we're doing touch panels. We have to deal with Joe executive who wanders in, or Joe instructor who wanders in once in a while, uses the system to do like the same three things and just wants it to work and wants it to work easily. And he's, your car driver. I just want to steer and go. And then we have the power users, the IT guys, the guy that is the AV guru at the company, the guy that thinks he knows everything. And he or she is the one that wants to be able to control everything to the micro level from the touch panel. And so you have to design both simple, easy, elegant, couple button pushes and it goes, macro type functionality for the easy people, the dummy buttons we call it, but they're not dummies, And then you have to have like this other whole touch panel GUI design for the power user that wants to be able to control everything as if he had all 50 remotes and access to the front button panels on all the racks. And sometimes that can be a nightmare if you have like a super power user. We just tell them no. But what it comes down to is, at least in the past, my company had always done almost two graphic users. We would do like a hidden menu that the power users were able to access that gave them all the functionality to everything. And it included the, dialing pad for their VTC and whatever, all the buttons. And then we would do a simple thing with macros, with presets for your average user, so that if, CEO Chuck came in and CEO Chuck wants to call the same people he always calls, CEO Chuck can come in and push that one button and it'll dim the lights and get it all set up for the VCC and dial that one number, So it gets so much more complicated than just make it simple, stupid, or give us all the functionality, because some people are flying a plane with this panel and some people are driving a car.
Yeah. And some people shouldn't be driving the plane that are driving the plane. So
some people should be walking.
Yes.
But the article basically said, the first, I'm not going to call it a mistake, but the first issue that I had was he said, we've got the programmers making the touch panels. Well, you don't necessarily, you don't, if you have the luxury, sometimes you're pressed for the same person to have to do multiple things. But if somebody's responsibility is the coding and the actual things that work, they may not necessarily have the bandwidth or the training or be able to relate to the complete other side, which is, how do I get there? Yeah. And so what seems simple and elegant to them, to anybody else other than who's intimately knowledgeable about the system, doesn't make any sense. And that's where I took the biggest issue, is that you've got the wrong people developing it in the first place. The touchscreen layout.
It's like the Google engineers developing something cool and sexy.
Right. Well, and that's the whole thing. He referenced Apple as simple and elegant. Well, yeah, because they have an entire division who specializes just in the look, nothing else.
They have Johnny Ive.
The industry isn't full of graphics designers.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, Rich is right. When you talk about Apple, they have a team of graphic people. Yeah. When you get into the AV industry, we got one guy that's pretty good with Photoshop.
or you have a company like my former company, where my husband, Mr. AV Don, was the programmer and I was the marketing kind of make it pretty person, but we would work together on touch panels. And I would say, no, fix that, or let me do this, basic layout for you. And we would work together on things. Not every company has an AV Don or, a Mr. AV Don that is willing to work in a team to develop these things. So you do run into the programmer trying to make it pretty, or the pretty maker people making just things that don't work.
Well, and again, to bring out a point is that I in my prior career, I had a much larger consulting company, and I had 5- and 6-figure budgets just on the GUI, nothing else.
Well,
and
Rich,
we hired graphic designers. I'm sorry?
You guys hiring?
That was a long time ago. It was 10 years ago, and the big part of the .com. But we did, this is circa between 1996 and 2001, and we were pushing the envelope on things, but we actually hired and built, as far as I knew at the time, the first contract graphics department just for touch panel layouts.
Wow.
And it became a division in our company. We brought in graphic designers who had no coding experience. Their only job was graphics. And then they worked in tandem with our programming team, and with my guys, and we then created the sum of the parts. Now, are some companies smaller and don't necessarily have that bandwidth? Yeah, but that's why you collaborate. And that's, again, the issue is that it's the concept that you all have to do it. And the idea of collaborating with other talented artists, which is what they are at that point, it shouldn't be in technology. I think it's the opposite. I think you have to have it in technology for just that reason, because everybody complains about this. This is the single biggest gripe you hear from people. It's too complicated. There's too many buttons. Right. Why? Because we've got tech people designing it.
Well, yeah, and it even goes, if you look even from the graphic standpoint, I mean, kind of to supplement Dawn's answer to Tim, commercially, you have a big disparity. Commercial integrators typically, and this isn't their fault, they're very busy, just like everybody else, but they don't spend a whole lot of time on their graphics. And a lot of times what happens is, you'll get that trade show or something where, there's a control system company, like a really good one, restaurant, that's out there, and they're showing their graphics, or you see their interface. And when they get to, they purchase the product, the integrator gets in, the job's done, and they light up that touchscreen, and they see gray chiclets. That kind of is a letdown, right?
Well, that was in the early days. We had gray, white, and black chiclets. Then we had 16 colors worth of chiclets in the early 90s. That was awesome. I remember when we first got round buttons. It was sick.
Yeah, just wait till now. With Core 3 that we've released and continuing development on, where you'll be able to on the fly change the whole theme of the interface just with the touch of a button.
By the way, I feel like I feel kind of like when my daughter, when she was 4 years old, after a tantrum, she'd look at me and she'd go, "I'm finished."
Yeah, I think so too.
Wow. All right.
I'm finished.
Well, I think this is one of the last devices that was released at InfoComm that maybe not the last, but one of the last, where some interesting news has come out. Biamp launched their Tessera processor in June of last year, and they finally have an education, a 2-day course set up for it. So those of you who have been hacking away at it can finally learn, how to do it right. So you contact Biamp for that. They're in Beaverton, Oregon. But I thought it was a cool thing back in June. We're going to end the show with Mr. Fregosa and Mr. Matt D. Scott giving us their reviews, because they've got their own hot little iPads in their hands. We'll get their reviews of the new iPad. We'll start with Mr. Scott. What do you think of your new toy, sir?
Well, technically it's not my toy.
Whose is it?
I bought it for my wife.
You didn't.
I did so.
That's like me buying my wife Bears tickets.
Okay. No, but I have used it quite extensively, and I'm in love with it, especially considering I myself am still using an original generation unit. So the difference between my original iPad and her iPad 3 is disgustingly huge. It's a huge generation gap in what it can do and how it runs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I must say I'm absolutely loving the new Retina display. That's by far one of the coolest things for me. It's definitely that. The 4G is pretty screaming fast as well, depending on our lovely networks up here in the good city of London.
In the Great White North.
Yeah, the Great White North.
So is it? Let me ask you this, because I do not have a first generation or any other. Is it worth the extra $100 to go to the new iPad? Or should I just do an iPad 2 for $400?
No. It's for the extra $100. Definitely buy it. It's worth it just in the camera alone.
Okay.
And that's kind of the big thing is, it's not a huge speed bump. If you already had an iPad 2 and you didn't necessarily need any of the new features that are in the new one, then it's a much harder decision. I remember having a conversation with Bradford Ben, and he was telling me how he was not going to upgrade because he already has the 2. And to me, that makes perfect sense. He doesn't really need the camera because he uses a professional camera when he shoots for real stuff. So, in that situation, yeah, maybe not unless you just want to, buy a new one to buy a new one. But yeah, if you don't have anything, don't cheap out. It's definitely not worth it.
Okay. Mr. Fregosa, Mr. iPhone Apple guy.
Yes.
Give it to me.
3 things. Love it. It's faster, prettier, and the speed. I mean, just the speed on it. It's. I mean, you can definitely tell with the processing chip. The cellular version, definitely huge difference between that and my iPad 2. I mean, we've got iPads littered around our house, and absolutely. Now, I would say that if you have an iPad 1 or don't have an iPad, then get the new iPad. If you have an iPad 2, it's an incremental update. The only reason why I would suggest it would be to go for the full bore unit. At that point, just get the cellular version with the 4G because it screams. I mean, it's a night and day difference between the two. And the camera's amazing. At CES, I use my iPhone 4 to do a lot of my video and interview gathering information. I plan on carrying this new iPad around InfoComm when I'm doing my gathering and hooking up my little iRig microphone setup to it because I think it's a perfect on-the-fly for somebody who doesn't do professional video or audio recording, but for somebody like me to just be able to carry something that weighs 2 pounds and a microphone to be able to do, field recording and interviews and booths or something like that, it's amazing. And the camera is, the biggest thing for me with the iPad isn't necessarily the iPad itself. It's now coupled with Apple's cloud technology. It is the first ripple in a huge wave that's going to be coming in terms of the ecosystem that they're building because everything's connected. As a perfect example, I bought the new Apple TV as well, the new 1080p device. Sat around the house, took a quick video of my son running around, pushed the AirPlay button. Within 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds, I'm going to say probably close to 15 seconds of when I stopped recording the video, I had that video playing on my 65-inch plasma in my family room in full 1080p, playing it back.
Wow.
And that's again, one of those big, huge features of the Apple ecosystem is, and this kind of touches on the touch panel thing. They've just designed stuff to work. It just works. And that's what has made it so, you always get all the tech guys who love all the different things of tech, but we can do a lot of things that your average consumer can't do. For my wife, the fact that she can update a contact in her iPad if she's doing an open house and have it instantly update on her phone just makes life so much better. Can we figure out ways to do that with different machines and different servers and stuff like that? Most definitely. But for her as someone who is technically inclined, but not necessarily a geek on our level of crazy geeks, this is where, Apple has got it right. And it's become such an effective part of people's lives because it does all that stuff that they didn't know they needed until they did it.
And I'll add even further with it, again, with the ecosystem. Again, if my mom and dad or my in-laws are listening, close your ears because you don't want to hear about your present. We're going to be giving our immediate family, because again, I've got she's going to be 8, my daughter, and my son's going to be turning 2. We're constantly taking pictures. And the biggest problem that we've always had is these photo frames, and you ship them and you put pictures and you can never update it. We're just going to send our family Apple TVs because we can link our photo streams, live photos from within minutes of what we've taken them will be showing up on their TV.
Wow.
Yeah,
and it works. I mean, we've been using it for the past week. We went to the St. Patrick's Day parade, and we took pictures of the kids, and we came back home and we turned on the TV because it turned onto the screensaver. There were the photos that we had just taken a couple of hours earlier as a screensaver on our TV.
That's cool, man.
Again, now is the iPad the reason behind it? No, it's not. But it is an amazing tool, especially now because of the better camera. You can carry the thing around, snap a picture if you're not using your iPhone, consume it, and reading books on this thing with the Retina display, forget about it.
It's insane. Now, one thing I will comment on in reference to the pictures, the iPhoto app, have you played with that, Rich?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is disgustingly amazing. It is phenomenal. I would use it on the iPad before I would use it on my Mac. And for most situations, it is more than fine. I would never have to open Photoshop again.
Wow.
Again, most situations, but it is a phenomenal. They've done a really, really good job.
For our Google and Android and Unix and Linux and open source friends that are out there, Apple's eating their lunch on this one. They really are. And this is, I mean, I happen to like the Apple product, but if there was something better out there, I'd buy it. I'm a technology nerd. If I see something cool, I want it and I buy it and I like playing with it. And I have a Kaleidescape because it's the best video player on the planet. It's elegant. That's why the iPad to me is that in terms of a tablet. It's the most elegant solution I found. Yes.
I'm still on the phone.
And on that note,
wow. Sorry, I think you dropped this knife in my back.
It's the best video player that has an attachable DVD ripper thingy. Is that better?
They're gonna be releasing the Laserdisc option to it next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, we still have that one little feature that no one else has, the whole world search thing.
Yes.
I love world search.
It is cool.
It is cool.
Cool.
And we're getting ready to release a new version of it.
And Mr. Iselli, I will say that my Kaleidescape systems perform beautifully with my very large-scale DM systems that are being installed. So.
Of course, because we play well with everyone.
Well, most everyone. Some people you don't like.
I didn't say that.
I did. You're listening to AVWeek. I didn't say who. I mean, you don't like me. So,
Oh, I love you.
I know. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
That's Kevin Iselli. He's from Crestron Electronics. He doesn't have a blog nor a Twitter, so don't bother. Go to Crestron. You have a Twitter, but you haven't tweeted since, Lincoln got assassinated, so...
I think that was my last tweet.
And you know what? You have
the president.
You have one of the coolest Twitter handles, and you don't do anything with it.
What is your Twitter handle?
Control Freak.
Oh, yeah.
I just think it's cool. So yeah. So thank you very much for stopping by on your birthday. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for talking to you guys all again.
Many bourbons this evening in celebration, Mr. Iselli. Happy birthday.
I don't know what you're talking about. Bourbon.
You should smoke that Maker's Mark. So
either that or mix it with Pepsi Crystal meth.
Oh jeez.
All
right, that
I'm having bourbon and cough syrup tonight.
The guy having bourbon and cough syrup is from the West Coast, of course, and he's Rich Fregosa. FregosaDesign.com. FregosaDesign.com.
Thank you for putting up with my rantings this week.
Oh, that's why I have you on. It's for your rantings. That and you tell me about all the really cool, expensive systems you put in that I can only dream of. So
I'll send pictures next time.
Thank you. Matt D. Scott is from Omega Audio Video, OmegaAudioVideo.com from London, Ontario. He's also at Omega Audio Video. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. It's been a blast.
And last but certainly not least, the AV goddess herself, blogger extraordinaire, and the marketing and media coordinator for NetAV. Her name is Dawn Meade. I almost called you AV Dawn, which would still be relevant.
I'm AV Dawn. That's fine.
Still AV Dawn, but no, Dawn Meade. So, my name is Tom Albright. If you'd like to follow me, it's at TD Albright, Tim David Albright. But more importantly for me and everybody here at the whole AV Nation, go to our website, ravepubs.com/AV Nation, ravepubs.com/AV Nation. We have a brand new show coming down the pike. It's called The Live Life. It deals with live staging, hosted by one of our regular contributors on this show, George Tucker. So check that out here in the next couple of weeks. We have another education show coming down the pike. We have another social show, the AV Social, coming down the pike, and a couple more. So yeah, just go to the website, ravepubs.com/AV Nation, ravepubs.com/AV Nation. It's all the time we have for AV Week.